it's like everything was a trigger. Like I remember a point in time, it's like there would be a song on the radio and it would be like some like stupid love song, and I would like think of like heroin, like a love affair with heroin. A lot of the times in the beginning, I didn't really know what to do, so I would just use.
Welcome to the Ray's Recovery Podcast. My name is Ray. I am your host today and founder of Ray's Recovery. And today we have with us a special guest, Dan Arico. He is a past friend of mine. We were friends since about middle school. Gotten a lot of different things together when we were younger and got really sick. Kind of went our separate ways for a while. You might have seen one of our other videos we did together more recently. It's also on the channel here if you're interested in watching that. That was a pretty good one we did. And we just have been working together to bring our expertise and knowledge to you guys for the betterment of your recovery and your lives, and to, help the people who are still out there struggling with some form of substance addiction to finally be able to stop and give you some real life tools that you can use in your recovery. And we wanted to talk today about triggers. Was one of the things we wanted to cover today, because that's a really big topic. I feel like just opening my eyes used to be a trigger. So we want to cover that. And I'm sure if you are here watching this, maybe you feel the same, or you have the same issue, and it's like opening your eyes is a trigger, So first, I wanted to introduce Dan, though. Hi, Dan. Thanks for being with us today.
No problem.
Go ahead.
Like as Ray said, I've been a longtime friend of his. I still consider him a very close friend. We've been through, I would say, hell and back. But we're both doing really well. We're both doing our own way of helping people in different ways. We have some similarities and some polar opposites. And we were just going to talk about different ways we deal with things, different ways we handle coping skills and triggers and stuff like that. And because I believe mine were probably a little bit different viewpoints than Ray's, and vice versa.
And so what do you do now, Dan?
I work at a place called Narconon, Louisiana, and it is in Denham Springs, which is about 20 minutes from Baton Rouge. And it's a program that's different than like a traditional 12-step. I had done 27 rehabs, and they were all 12-step. And for some reason, it didn't. I had a very difficult time with the concept of higher power, just because I consider myself an atheist. And that was always very difficult to grasp. So my mother, when I was homeless for a year, found this place, and I came here. And the methods in which they use here are quite different than traditional 12-step. It's less, well, it's actually not faith-based at all. It's more scientifically things done on you that like it, because the way that I like to explain it to people is, it's like sometimes when you get to like a program like 12-step, you really, 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 really have to want to stop. Like you have to have that urge and drive and desire. And the one thing that I like about this place is you don't when you get here, if that makes sense. Because when I first got here, I did not want to be here at all. I wanted to leave. I tried to make up every excuse in the book to get out. My mother told me that there was no way in hell that she would let me leave. So I went to the first step, which was the sauna detox. And that's about a month long, where you take vitamins that drugs diminish out of your system. You take niacin, because niacin flushes drugs out of your system. A lot of people know that from passing drug tests. So as you go through that, no matter if you want to feel better or you don't want to feel better, just by going through that, you will feel better in the end. So when I got to the end of that, my mindset started to change, and I was like, maybe it's possible. So when I first got here, I didn't want to be here at all. So when people get here and they're like, it's not going to work, I don't want it, I was like, well, guess what? Neither did I when I got here. You just have to because it's just proven that when you do these steps, this will happen. And then the next thing that we do here. It's like a cognitive therapy, which is interesting because we were talking about triggers, and this is kind of like where things go a little bit in the opposite direction of our points of view. Um, the way it's hard to explain. There's like a series of cognitive exercises and counseling sessions done on a person that makes them more aware of themselves and why the trigger triggers them, so they can see the things for what they are. Because we believe that you ultimately have um, it's things are only as powerful as you make it. For instance, whenever I used to see a needle, I would like almost vomit.
Mm-hmm.
Now I see it, I'm like, it's a piece of plastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a piece of plastic. It's like it's only as powerful as I allow it to be. And that series of like cognitive counseling sessions gets you to be able to get to a point where triggers aren't such a big issue. Now I'm not saying that there aren't any ever, but like if I saw a bag of dope right now, like it would be just like looking at a piece of wax paper. Or if I saw a bottle of pills, it's just like they're just inanimate objects that we give them the power.
Yeah.
So I think that's a little different than from what you believe. Maybe I'm not sure.
Well, the interesting thing with me, Dan, is so I did traditional recovery programs, and NA was the one that resonated more with me, and because
Yeah,
I was more into narcotics than I ever was alcohol. But
yeah.
I've learned that in NA they say that alcohol is a drug, and you must
Oh,
abstain
absolutely.
from all drugs in order to recover. So there seems to be this separation. A lot of people think that alcohol is somehow different or the lesser of the evils, and it's on the same level. But
Or worse, if not.
yeah, honestly, I would say it's worse than most drugs. Yeah,
I agree.
like opiates, for sure. I would say it's worse, even though it sounds crazy. But not to get off in the weeds, we can touch on why that is in a bit. But so I went through NA. I was in, I said 4 rehabs last time, but I thought about it was actually 3. And then I went to a halfway house, which if you want to count that as a rehab, that's
Yeah,
fine. But so I did everything they told me. And so I was at that point where like I really wanted to change. I guess the
yeah,
previous rehabs I didn't, but I was like, I tried to kill myself. I came back. I've almost died several times, and I just felt like I couldn't escape, and it was to the point where like I could no longer. The way I've always explained it is like my human capsule could no longer carry all of the pain and suffering that I was feeling and going through every second of the day, and so I was homeless, like it was like the end of my road. And, like you mentioned before, very hard to even, when you're in that state, it's very hard to even get enough money to just feel well for the day. So,
yeah,
but the addiction is such a cunning enemy that I remember being like, maybe I need help as I'm homeless, hopeless, strung out, on the streets. I'm like dirty clothes. I'm unkept. I haven't had a haircut. Like, stinky, nothing to eat, and it's like, maybe I need help. It wasn't even like, oh, I need help. It was like, maybe. And so I just went in for a long-term treatment. It was a traditional recovery program. It was actually Pyramid, um, and in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. And I did 3C, the 90 days, but part of me always wanted to leave. And then they said,
yeah,
well, we highly recommend you go to a halfway house. And there was only one open that I could go to when I was being released. And I thought I didn't want to do that. But I'm like, well, every other time they told me to do that, I didn't do it. And I'm like, where else am I going to go? Really? I like the streets, like after doing 90 days and being clean for 3 months, am I just going to go back to the streets? Like, so I said, okay, I'll go to the halfway house. I can always leave, right? I can always leave if I don't want to be there. And so I went there, and I spent, it's like a 3 to 6 month program. 6 months is the longest. And I was there the whole entire 6 months. But then they said, you should go to a 3/4 house. And so being at the halfway house, now they consider it extreme behavioral modification therapy. That's what the actual clinical title is, extreme behavioral modification therapy. And so you go to meetings, you do the 12 steps, but there's also a whole different side to it where you're like working on yourself, trying to understand what emotions are, what your emotions are, how to deal with them, coping mechanisms, life skills, all these different things. And so I was in NA like solid, like I had a home group and everything. And for at that point, like 5 years, but altogether, I've been in NA like meetings, maybe 8 years or so, like, pretty seriously. The last 5 years was, I was very serious, like always made the meetings and stuff. But so afterwards, I had some things happen and I kind of stepped away from NA for a little bit, but I knew I still needed recovery. So I, as fate would have it, I stumbled on some videos online of a guy who ended up being a mentor of mine. And the way he thinks is very different. It added a whole lot more layers. Like, so he introduced me to the idea of a paradigm. And then a paradigm is basically your subconscious programming that we operate on. It's our habits and behaviors that have a nearly exclusive control over our results. And so he started talking about universal laws, like the laws of the universe, the law of attraction, the law of vibration, the law of sex, gender transmutation, the vacuum law of prosperity, all these different laws. And so I started to see like there was a reason, a specific reason I was getting my results. And it wasn't by accident, it was because of what I was doing. Like you said, we give things meaning, things just are until we put a plus or a minus on it and we say this is
Yep.
good or this is bad. But before that, it's just like $1 million, for example. It's neither big or small. It's our thinking that makes it so. Some people think
Yeah.
$1 million is nothing. Some people think that's more than they'll ever have in their life. It's an astronomical number. So we're kind of in line on a lot of things, probably more than maybe we even know yet. But I agree with the 12 steps. It's a process that will help someone come to meet themselves and deal with themselves. And then after a while, it's not even dealing. It's a way of life. And then you take and you spread that message to other people. But then the things that my last mentor taught me, it added all this clarity. So when they tell you in NA to like show up early, make the coffee, hug people, clean up the chairs, they say go to 90 meetings in 90 days. And like
Yeah.
they tell you all these things, but they don't say why. They just say, just do it. And I've learned later through my own personal studies that you're changing the paradigm. And the only way to change the paradigm is either through an abrupt emotional impact. Like if you had say you lost a loved one in your life and it just really impacted you and you were never the same again. Or maybe a stranger did something nice for you and it just had such an impact on you. You like, yeah, it changed you. You never walk past a homeless person again without giving them $1 or something. Like there's things that change us emotionally that are abrupt and impactful. And the second way is through study, repeated ideas over and over and over again. So just like getting high, we did the same thing over and over for years, decades, and it's extremely hard to stop. Like you just wake up and waking up is a trigger. It's like go, 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 go all day, every day.
Yep.
That's all it is. And so I actually in my in-person recovery group, I teach these things. So it's we have the 12 steps there as a guide, but there's weeks we don't even talk about the actual 12 steps. We talk about these other tools. So I'm
Mhm.
kind of like, and Ray's recovery is it's not NA and it's not AA. It's a different thing. It's like there's like you've said in our last video that the goal is to get to the top of the mountain, and however you get there, there's a lot of different paths you can take to get to the top, but as long as you get to the top. And so
Doesn't matter how.
right. So I take those different like teachings, modalities and combine them together.
Like a hybrid.
Yes, it is. It's a hybrid. So yeah, I'm interested in hearing more about like, your methods and things there, but I also wanted to give people some real life examples of triggers. And I don't know if you've had time to think about any maybe that you have or have gone through. I certainly have a couple that I'd like to share, but I wanted to
Yeah.
hear from you first about even early on and now, like early on, what kind of were your triggers, and now what triggers do you have, and how did you deal with them then versus how you deal with it now? And is there a difference in the intensity of the amount of things that trigger you then versus now?
Yeah, I would say. Are you talking about before I was here, or like currently, or both?
Like when you were just starting to get, like, trying to get clean, when you were trying to get clean.
Um, I mean, like before I got here,
Yeah.
like just like when I was going through all those rehabs.
Yeah.
I mean, e- everything was a trigger for me. Like, I mean, literally anything. I would hear a song and it would make me think of heroin, and then I would go do it.
Smell.
Yeah, it's like everything was a trigger. Like I remember a point in time, it's like there would be a song on the radio, and it would be like just some like stupid love song, and I would like think of like heroin, like a love affair with heroin.
Mhm.
Um, I would see money, I would think of heroin. I would see a syringe, I would think of heroin. I would see a piece of wax paper and like a cookie with a wax paper, and I think of a stamp bag. I'd see the letter K and think of Klonopin. I mean, it was like, and a lot of the times in the beginning, I didn't really know what to do, so I would just use.
Yeah.
Um, um, and when I got here, it was like after doing those like I told you, those there 15 counseling cognitive exercises that are done here, which are very like very intricate and very like intense sessions, and it kind of makes it to where that doesn't really like you're not reactive to that as much anymore. I'm not saying I don't have triggers anymore, because that would be like untrue, but it's like they don't create that, like the ones that happen don't create that like gut wrenching feeling. Like
Would you say compulsion is a huge part of those? Like, does that go hand in hand with the triggers?
I would think so, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, because it's like I mean I learned, like one of my closest friends died about 5 or 6 months ago, and it's like normal. I mean, it was awful. It was sucked. It was a huge loss, but it was like I wasn't like, oh my god, I need to go do this or that. It was like it upset me, and I was able to just rationalize it, talk to a few people here, and I mean, obviously, I'm still upset about it, but it's just how I handled it. I mean, like again, certain things, 90% of the things that used to trigger me don't anymore, like songs. Like, I mean, I work here. I work in the medical department here also. So it's like whenever people get here and they bring drugs in, I have to like I'm one of the ones that confiscates them and pills and stuff like that. And it's like sometimes I have to take people's bottles of like Klonopins and flush them down the toilet. It's like it's no, I don't have that like, oh, I should just throw a few in my pocket or anything like that. It's just very like it just not, it doesn't do that to me anymore.
So what? So before you dealt with it just by using, you'd have a trigger. Like I said, waking up, and whenever time you woke up, I'd say morning, but a lot of times you didn't wake up in the morning. But it that was it's so life was the trigger, basically, like
Yes,
essentially
everything,
everything. Yeah.
everything. I was, and when me personally, when it comes to triggers, cravings, withdrawal, I'm the biggest baby there is. I will like, I would cave at like the slightest little, like, because I remember one time when you and Erica went and tried to detox yourselves. It's like
Yeah.
I can't do stuff like that. It's like I have to be sent away and locked up to be detoxed in rehab, because I am too weak. Like I'm my mind. I'm just like I get too panicked, too like frantic, too like so. I never, until I came here and did what I did here. I never dealt with it properly.
Hmm.
Like I always caved in, always.
Yeah, I get it. And I mean, even that event, I tried to actually leave her there and drive, like, I don't know if you remember, but I was like thinking about leaving her and coming
I
back to
remember
get, yeah. And
you told me that. I remember.
so it wasn't easy. That was for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was we tried, but it didn't work. But yeah. Anyway, so okay, so what changed then, Dan? So like, how do you deal? Like, okay, so you have, let's say, because Klonopin was one of your drugs of choice. So
I
how?
would I would honestly, if I'm being honest, I would say I would, and a lot of people to say that I'm weird for this. I would put that as my number one drug of choice over heroin.
Mhm.
Um, I just because I'm always, I don't know if you remember, but I've always been like real like anxious and like real like, it's like text after like, okay, well, I remember it's like, Ray, you ready, ready to do
Yeah,
stuff. I
yeah.
was like super anxious, super anxious person. So I kind of like, that was my number one. Heroin was my number two. Like Klonopin and Xanax, I liked more. I mean, they were very close, but that was my number one.
Hmm. So if you take somebody's Klonopin that comes into your program and they have it on them, what is your thought process now? Like before, it would have probably been like, sweet, I can definitely get away
Oh yeah,
with taking most of these, if not all of them, or
yeah. I
maybe
could have
something
taken
like
all of
that.
them if I wanted to.
Yeah. So what do you think now? Like when you're like, do you there has to be some thought process. Like how do you
Um,
deal with it?
I just look at it as something that like ruined so much of my life, and I'm more rational now. It's like by doing the things I've done here and the program here, it teaches you to be a lot more rational and be more in the present and not in the past or future. Kind of like, because it's like I know if I take some of these, I know exactly what's gonna happen. You have to like, and like our program here teaches you like, and through all that stuff, you learn not to be so, again, reactive, or you could use the word compulsive or whatever you want, because sometimes it's like it's just almost like a reaction. It's just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna stick a couple of these in my pocket, and it's like you almost go on autopilot.
Right.
But some of the things that I went through here and the processes that are done here kind of break that like reactiveness out of you. So I don't look at it as like this was like the love of my life for 15 years and it's going down the drain and like like depressed the rest of the day because I didn't talk. I mean,
Yeah.
I just had to do that like not even a month ago. Someone brought in 92 milligram Klonopins, and there was only like three missing, and I had to flush them all down the toilet.
Yeah, I actually have a very recent example of a trigger as well, and I'll walk you through how I my like thought process. Like in groups and stuff, like it's easy to say how I would deal with something, or for anyone, like, or people ask, well, what would you do if you were in this situation? And we can give an answer, but I believe that there's just far too many variables to ever really give 100% sure of an
Yeah,
answer to a question like that. So if someone would say, if someone offered you drugs, what would you do? I would like to say I would decline that immediately. But so here's what happened. I went down the street to my local gas station, and there was two police SUVs blocking off half the road right in front of the gas station. So I'm turning in, and I see they have a woman arrested on the sidewalk who was like hysterical. She looked homeless. She looked a mess. She was a wreck. And I didn't like stare. I just I saw it, and I'm like, oh boy, it sucks to be her, and I could probably think how she was feeling. And I parked and I went in, and the cashier was talking to a man like on the side of the store where they couldn't really see me. And I looked down, I'm standing at the checkout, and I look down, there's a baggie there that's open with some like little white things in it. And so I picked it up because I'm like, oh, I wonder if this is drugs. I probably wouldn't want like a kid or something to get a hold of this. And I picked it up and I just smelled it from outside the bag, and it was crack cocaine.
yeah,
And I just like the smell of it. I probably
yeah.
shouldn't have smelt it, but it triggered like memory. Like I used to do crack. I didn't
Oh,
even
I
like
remember.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember. I remember. Yes, I
And I
remember.
didn't even like it. It's so stupid, but I would sure use it. And I started to go into like a panic state, and it triggered I don't know, I felt this like chemical just flushing through my body. And I thought, man, no one's even watching me. I'm home alone. I could totally do this and get away with it. And then I'm like, wait a second, why would I do that? Why would I said that? I don't even like this stuff. That's so stupid. And I thought, I'm really gonna go home, make a crack pipe and smoke this crack, and then what, like really? And at that time, the cashier had come back over and I said, hey, this is crack. You need to throw it away. I found it on the floor here. And she like freaked out. She didn't want to touch it. I'm like, just throw it away. It's like, just throw it away. And she's like, oh, I can't do that. And she like went out to tell one of the police officers. I don't know what happened though. But anyway, I literally, my brain made me high for like 20 minutes. And I got home. And it wasn't until after I got in the door that I realized it was like a test, that I had passed. But so how I dealt with that in the moment, like I've got almost 9 years clean. I don't even like crack, but it triggered me like very hard. It triggered me, and I didn't feel good for about an hour after that. But I thought to myself, like, I have accountability to other people in recovery. Um, do I really am I the things I say and tell people? Like if I'm trying to help someone, tell them, giving them suggestion or what I did in the past, and I go and I do something like that, what's that say about who I am? And
Yeah.
it's not even worth it. Like so I asked myself, what good will come out of it? Like I played the tape the whole way through. I would probably feel really bad about myself. Now I'd have to carry this guilt, and I'd either have to come clean or let that secret eat me.
And then it
and
might get worse.
and it would just get,
Yeah.
because like, well, I failed, I'm no good, I need to numb this, go find something else. Might just be go down the street and get a bottle of beer or something, like. But it would go into more, and then I'd feel
Downward
worse,
spiral.
the downward spiral, just from that one event. So that's such a pivotal moment, like. And that's not the first time that I've been tempted with drugs just put at my feet. Literally, it's happened at least 3 times in my recovery in the past 9 years, where there's been drugs just happen to be laying there. And I'm like, man, why didn't this happen when I was using it? I never found
It never
anything when I was
does.
using it.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm being tempted by some other force. And that's what I believe it to be. I really do, because that never happened when I was doing it. I mean, I would pray for me to find a bag of drugs of anything, and that would never happen. And that's happened to me 3 times in the past 9 years where I didn't even want it around. So anyway, that's how I deal with some of them. Um, I just
I mean, I
always,
would say my ways are a little similar too. It's like I said, like I said, because it's like I when it's certain circumstances like that, I think about like what would happen if it's like I work at this place. If I swallow a bunch of Klonopin right now, it's obviously I've been taking them in so long. I'm gonna be like slobbering on myself. Like I mean, everyone's gonna know, and then it's like gonna be it's like very hypocritical of me. I mean, it's just you have to just rationalize it out. And I think the longer and the longer I don't even want to say the longer clean time you have, that it's easier, because honestly, I've been clean 2 years at one point, which has been easier than clean at 5 years at one point. It's all about your mindset, I think.
yeah,
So I think time is, and this is just my personal opinion, I think time can be an illusion in a sense, as far as like where someone's at. Because I see somebody 1 year clean in a much better space, being more responsible, more on top of things than someone who's been clean for 5 years.
absolutely.
It's all about how you rationalize it out. You have to like actually use you have to apply what you learn, like regardless if it's your program, my program, whatever it is. It's like, because all the other places I went to, I listened, but I didn't do anything that they said to do. I
Yeah,
mean, towards the end, I tried a little bit, because it was like I was like homeless for a year and kind of desperate. And the guy was like, "I want you to pray." I was like, "What?" Like, I don't. And I tried. I was like, "I will genuinely try." And I tried and tried, and I was like, "This is just not not for me." But like once you start to like get whatever program works for you, and you start to like learn more, like you said, yours, it's a way of finding yourself. That's the same thing here. It's like this program helps you find out who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get to that point, you are able to um, think things through more rationally.
Right. But I think it's important, like, first, before that, is like you have to distance yourself from the drugs
Oh
somehow.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Like, so if you're out there listening to this and you're in active addiction, you first have to create a space between you and the drugs, and whether that's jails or institutions. Hopefully it's one of those and not death, because then this doesn't matter anymore. But you that's what I had to do it. And there was like a lot of days in treatment, like inpatient, that I wasn't really like, didn't really want to be there, but it was just about, and maybe wasn't really learning anything that day. At least I didn't think so. But it was just about having that safe space between me and the drug, and reservations too. Like, I'm sure we could talk about that all day, but I always had reservations before. And I think that's because I really like the whole sauna treatment or therapy,
Yeah.
because it takes, I think that's why it's so hard for most people, especially if you've been a long time drug abuser. That stuff is literally like down into your every cell of your being, and
Yep.
it has to be burnt. Like, basically all your cells have to renew. You have to burn all your fat and everything to get all that, flush it all out of you. So the sauna kind of takes that like 18-month process and boils it down to 30 days.
Correct.
And yeah, so
There's actually people that like 9/11, the firefighters from 9/11 did the same sauna program. There's a lot of people that went to like different countries because it like flushes out pesticides. Like I remember whenever I did the sauna, I was in the sauna with someone who was a meth addict, and you could start to smell like the chemicals like flushing out of it.
yeah,
So, and once you get all that out of your system, that's another thing is cravings. From what the program here suggests is that you have all this stuff built up in your system, like in your fatty tissues, in your, like you just said, every cell of your being. And if you're going about your day and sometimes they break loose into your bloodstream or like, then you get a craving.
right.
And that's sometimes where a lot of cravings come from. So when you do the sauna program and you flush it out, I'm not saying 100% of it goes away. You flush most of the drugs out of your system, so it kind of like eliminates a lot of cravings
Yeah,
as well. On top of like getting everything out of your system, on top of feeling like whenever I finished, I felt like I was 15 years old again. I had energy. I was like I could sleep normally. I was like I could smell better. I could taste better. It was like my skin tone improved. It was like way, and that's to the point where I was like, that was the first time I was like, okay, I don't want to leave. I'll give it a shot. Like this, I have hope in this program right now because it did what they said it would do.
yeah. Yeah, I was actually going to say that. So I'm glad you did, because it really helps. I found it really helps to understand what's going on, because I would always just think it was me. Like, I'm just a lost cause, like a bad person. But when you actually understand that, well, I'm getting this craving because I've burnt calories, and that chemical has been released and went into my brain. It's crossed the blood brain barrier. It's in my brain. It's triggered this. That's why. It's not because I necessarily even want to do it. A lot of times I didn't even want to do it, but I couldn't stop myself.
Yeah,
So I honestly, I wish I would have went through that myself, like the sauna.
the sauna.
Yeah, I really do. I feel like that would have really helped, because I just went through it, like all the post acute withdrawal, and it took the better part of 2 years before I actually didn't have that anymore. And they say if you can make it to 2 years, you have like a 97% chance of staying clean or something like that. So yeah, that's what I did, man. I did it that way, and I wish I wouldn't have, but I do go to the sauna and stuff. More so the steam room. Like, I've been big into that, so that helps a lot too. But
I'm actually redoing the whole sauna program in like I think next week. I'm starting it again next week, and not because of like I relapsed or anything, but because I don't know if I told you this. I think I did. Several years ago, I had really bad Hep C, and I had to do it was genotype 1A, which is the worst type of Hep C. And for some reason, my body was like, like my liver enzymes were like through the roof. And so I had to do the treatment, which was a year and a half. And it's not how the treatment now, I think it's like you take a pill for 4 weeks and it's pretty simple now. But back when I did it, it was almost like cancer medicine. And it was like chemo. All my hair fell out and all that stuff. So the director here offered me, she's like, if you want, I will give you the opportunity to do the sauna program again to get all that shit out of your system. And I said, I mean, some people like it and some people don't. And I was like, yeah, I want to. Why not?
Yeah,
It only make me
I
feel
would love to
good.
do it.
Yeah, it's usually 30 days, and you take increased doses of niacin as you go up, and different supplements, like different oils, different things to like replace things that you sweat out, and it's really, 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 really good. It makes you feel like $1 million.
Hmm. I would love to do that. Like, I'd love to do it right now. I could use it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, well, how about let's talk about another kind of trigger that might be harder to dodge, but
Okay.
let's say the trigger is someone in your immediate family, maybe it's your spouse, um, it could be a parent, could be a what someone in your family or someone that you live with. Um, how do you suggest to people to deal with that if it's someone like that they can't maybe get away from necessarily?
Can you give me a specific example?
Yeah, so maybe like a person coming into the program lives with their mom or their dad, and maybe that person was someone they used with, maybe they used with their mom or their dad or both their parents, and that's the only place they have to go back to after treatment. So they know if they go there, being around them, because they're still getting high, they didn't go to treatment, but the individual did. And so now it's like, well, they can either go back there or try to find somewhere else to go to. But let's say they go back, maybe they don't have another option at that moment.
That's
And
rough. That's rough.
yeah.
That's really rough. I mean, especially it depends on especially if it's just like a 7, 14, or 28 day program,
Yeah.
because that's still you're still like real sensitive to everything. I don't think I think 28 days is too short.
Me too.
Personally, that's a really hard. That's yeah. You have to. I would say not go back there. I would say because like the place we have here, we have resources to send people to places that are like that don't have that financially like can't afford places. We set people up with sober livings, and we actually raise donations to help get people in there that are in situations like that. So let's say we have some woman that comes here and she doesn't want to go back to her abusive husband who is using drugs. We would use some of our reserve funds and donations to pay for the first few weeks of her halfway house, recovery house, what have you. But then it would be her responsibility to find the job and continue on with whatever she wanted to do. But
Mhm.
that situation, I would say, don't go back. You would have to do everything you could to find somewhere else to go.
Yeah.
Or if you live with someone, I remember we talked about this, but you were asking um, the question you asked, and I didn't. I kind of this was like one of the videos I was watching that was live. I didn't answer. I didn't comment, but you said if you have a friend or someone that confides in you that says they've reverted or relapsed, and not to say anything. What do you say something or not? I would say immediately say something. That happened recently with my friend that passed away, Olivia. She called me and said, I messed up. I started taking Klonopin again, and don't tell my mother. I was like, okay. And then the second I got off the phone with her, I called her mother, and I was like, Karen, I was like, Olivia's on drugs again. We need to do something.
Yeah.
Because the longer you don't say something, you're just enabling.
Yeah, right.
And even if the family kicks them out, then maybe that's what's needed right now.
Yep.
Maybe they need that reality check.
Yeah.
So my advice is like, you need to call, if it's like a friend or someone you're living with, you need to like call them out. You need to get their family involved. You need to just like make it like blow it up. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, well, and two, you got to look at it like what it really is, a life or death situation. And so if
Yeah.
you have a friend that you care about and you don't want them to die, and they were bad on drugs, they've been clean for a little bit, and they confide in you like, man, I screwed up, I'm doing it again, please don't tell anyone. Because like addiction wants to isolate, like how isolated are we in addiction? I mean, like that comes with it. It's like it wants to isolate and keep us there. It's almost like this, like you said, it becomes like this god that you serve, you know. I mean, it really does. It becomes a god, like this thing that you like worship and obsess over. And I remember last time I got clean in a rehab, I literally went through a grieving period for months. Like I lost my best friend. Like I was married to the drugs, you know, like
Oh
you
yeah.
just, I literally grieved over it. I really did. And that's very real. So I
Oh, I
would
know.
say,
I can pull those feelings up right now. Like I know
yeah,
exactly. I remember those. I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah. Like you've lost the love of your life and you can never get her back again kind of feeling. So but I would say if you are out there getting high and like you're in the grips of active addiction and you actually want help to some degree, even if it's just like a tiny bit, uh, you want to make sure there's a program. If you're in a situation, a living situation where you can't, you shouldn't go back 'cause it's not good for you. I would ahead of time see if that program can help you with the next step. Like, are there three-quarter houses around you can send me to? I need to like make sure I have somewhere safe to go after this program. And that would be a good thing to do beforehand, before you just go somewhere, because not every place might be able to help you out with that. I know many do, but I'm sure there's some that might not. So
Yeah, our place. For anyone out there listening, our place. If you have nowhere to go after, we find um, places for you to go and even help pay for the first bit of it. We even allow people to stay here and we provide and pay for the training so you can work here if you like and like get all the training needed. That's what I did. You you can, I mean, there's just different you just have to reach out. Like I said, we even have a few partial, like we do a lot of working with, because a lot of programs are like, it's you have to pay all this money or you're this or that. Like we're very flexible. We have a couple donated scholarships for people that are not that well off, so feel free to if anyone's listening, reach out. You can reach out to me, Ray, or whoever. I mean, either of us would do whatever we could.
yeah, absolutely, for sure. So so we talked about kind of like things that might just happen in your day-to-day life, how to deal with that. I think in like traditional recovery, they say play the tape the whole way through. I think that's a really, but the thing is when you're in the moment, you have to remember that, like play the tape the whole way through. Okay, what's the end of this going to look like? And then kind of play it backwards from there, you know, into like the present moment. Okay, so if I do this, this is very likely going to happen. This is going to happen. I'm going to want more. This, and ultimately, I'm going to lose everything again. And if that's not you, then wow, congratulations. But that's me, you know. And I know that's you too, Dan. Like I
Oh
just,
yeah,
yeah, it's like you said before, it changes something in you, like in your brain. The second you put that drug back in you, something changes
instantly.
instantly. Yeah, and it's like back you go, and you just take the elevator straight down to the ground level, you know, and then you start digging yourself a hole again. It's not
Yeah.
like as gradual as when you first start using. Like for me, it
No.
was a gradual thing over years, and I don't know where I crossed that line where it was like fun and something we did on the weekends to like, this is a problem and I have to do this every day just to function, you know? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, are there any other like common triggers you could think of that people might face or do face besides family, living, like people, places, and things, right?
Those are the triggers.
Yeah, you can sum it all up into that.
Yeah, that's something from AA that I completely agree with.
Yeah. And but to be fair too, there's a lot of people, and maybe you've even tried this, but they think, well, I just need to get out of here. I need to go live in like a different state or a different country. I've heard people have gone to different countries where they didn't even speak the language
Yeah, no,
and still got high. They still found a way to get high very quickly. Um,
no. My mother sent me to rehabs all over the state. I've left so many of them and was like able to find heroin like within the snap of a finger. If you're a drug addict, you know how to play the game.
yeah.
So I mean, you can't like it's within you. It's not you can't. It's not like you can relocate and it just gets better. You have to fix yourself. It's not the place.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like you take you wherever you go. And it turns out, because I don't know, I used to think this very strongly. I thought, man, I just need to put down the drugs. If I could just put the heroin down, like everything would be fine. My life would be great. And then when I finally was able to do that, it still wasn't. I mean, I was homeless. I was homeless using, I got clean. I'm still homeless. Right. So it was like, and amongst many other things, but it was like me, I found, but I couldn't find out that it was me until I had that like distance from the drugs, like clarity of mind, self-awareness. And so I think that's step one. If you're out there, like, even most of the stuff we said, you might have already, like, some people probably quit watching or just think it's stupid. This isn't going to help me. Anything we said isn't useful. But that's because you have to distance yourself from the drugs first, because you're not thinking in a clear state. And so that's step one. Whatever you got to do that, if you want to have a good life, or you are meant for more than just being a strung out addict, and then you can start to work on the other things. But it's all within. Any change you want to see on the outside has to first change inside. Would you agree with
Correct.
that? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So people, places, and things, like, it was maybe 3 years ago, I drove into across Lawrenceville and Pittsburgh. And I haven't been there in years. And going across the 40th Street Bridge, I believe it,
No,
I
no,
started to
yeah,
feel
yeah.
I started to feel all that. And I thought, wow, the last time I drove across this bridge, I was going to get dope. And then there's a Wendy's right at the end of the bridge, and I would always go in there and I would get high, like, immediately. As soon as I got it, I would hurry up, go in there, get high. And so that was years later, and I still felt that again. So I always tell people, like, take a different route. Like, if driving past us, don't drive through the ghetto or the projects where you used to go get your dope. Like, drive around it, take a different route, even if it's longer, like, that's all right. But that goes back to the places part of it, like, it's kind of like, there was a guy, you hang out at a barber shop long enough, you're gonna get a haircut. And there was a guy I was in the halfway house with, who actually is dead now because he relapsed. But he said, if you hang out at a barber shop long enough, eventually you're going to smoke crack. And it's just like being at the places, like, don't put yourself in situations. And even to the extreme, like, there was a girl who I dated for several years, and her parents both smoked weed, and they didn't respect the facts. They didn't really get it that, like, I couldn't be around that. And they would, like, put it right in my face, like, hey, smell this, Ray, remember this. And
That's
I actually got really upset and had to have a conversation with them about it. And they didn't seem to really get it or care. And so I quit seeing them. I never went in their house again. And unapologetically, because I know where it takes me. And so if it means offending someone, like, I don't want to be around you because you do that. It's not because I'm better than you. It's because I know where it takes me. And
yeah,
me caring about myself is me caring for you, because eventually I'm going to be stealing all your weed. You know what I mean? And like in a very
Yeah.
short period of time. And so me taking care of myself, like, and they were like, I thought I was better than them. You know, that was their perception. And it was like, no, I don't think that at all. You just won't respect the fact that I'm in recovery and I cannot be around that. Like, I'm not strong enough and I don't want to be around, I don't want to, it wears you down. Even if you're in that, but say you are strong enough over time, it wears you down to the point where it's like, well, I'll just take a hit. What's the big deal? And then the next day you're like doing the thing you really want to do again. And I've experienced that. So yeah, that's like, if it's your parents, if it's your spouse's parents, your girlfriend's parents, if it's your, you know, if it's your girlfriend or boyfriend, I would say you need to get a new one, like, or
Oh,
like get
absolutely.
away from that. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we could probably tell stories all day about people who have come into treatment and that we've seen that get together with someone else in there and they go off and get high and die, or they
Yeah,
just
and
stay clean.
I literally can think of three right now on the top of my head that I've seen over the last year.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like a common theme. And it's because I think we're codependent. We feel like we need something to fill the void, something else to make us feel good. And that comes back to, like you were saying, not really knowing who you are, giving yourself enough time to figure out who and what you are.
But see, even though like I like even like what with what I said earlier about how like going through the program here, it's like a lot of the triggers that I used to have are like kind of like they're not there anymore. But that does not mean that, like I said, I don't have any like because I haven't been back to Pittsburgh to 8 years. So if let's just say that I got back to Pittsburgh and drove down Larmer Avenue, I'm not saying that like I would just be like blah da. Like I'm probably sure I'd have like ugh, memories and just like I'd get that like a little bit of anxiety, but I wouldn't. I certainly wouldn't go like look for someone to like dope, but like I would just like be like, okay, I just need to get out of this area. This is like not where I should not be here.
Yeah. It would be like you wouldn't want to go there and like hang out for the day or
No, absolutely not. That's not a place
yeah.
to hang
No, no, definitely not. So yeah, people, places and things. And you know, at first for me, like the smell, there's an actual term for it. It starts with a P, but I can never remember. But it's the smell of the earth after it rains, like
out.
that scent. That was a big trigger for me because I used to like sit outside underneath a tree when it was raining and have that smell, and I'd be getting high. I'd be shooting dope, you know, and so even, and they say smell is the closest thing to memory. So like some things you can't avoid, like you can't avoid the smell of the earth after it rains. You know, you could try, you could stay inside, but you don't, that doesn't always work out that way. So
That's
that's where,
actually good. That's very true because I remember even before like the heroin days, whenever we were like, I think in middle school, I don't know if you remember this, but you used to wear this like I think cologne or a certain smell, and I always said it reminded me of mushrooms
yes, yes,
because it's like the one time I tripped really hard on mushrooms, and you wore that, and it's like every single time you wore that, I was like always like go back to like oh I want to get some mushrooms or I want to trip or something, and I would always call it your psilocybin spray or
yeah.
something like that.
Emporio Armani. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Emporio Armani. It was in the cylindrical shaped, like dark charcoal bottle. Yeah.
and even I still when I smell that now, I still think of that.
Yeah.
That's how strong. That's how strong that like those memories and triggers can like lock into your brain.
Right. Yeah, I don't wear that anymore. I haven't had that stuff in a long time. And the other one was the original Hugo Boss. That was another one I used to wear around that time. So those both kind of remind me
Yeah,
of that.
because some
Yeah.
people here come with it, and I smell it. I'm like, it just reminds me of like me and you walking to the middle school dance on mushrooms.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the first time I tried them. Yeah, but
Yeah. So your memories are like smells are definitely a huge factor, I think, in something.
mhm, absolutely. And that's why I think it's so important. Like today, like one thing I'll do, I always tell people to never look back, like never look back in the past and like fret about all the things you did, because we all have done horrible things in our active addiction. And I say, if you're going to look back, the only reason to look back for is just for a contrast, a comparison of where you're at, like to look how far you've come. And so if I have a trigger, I just remember the last 2 weeks I was out on the streets homeless. And then like I go there in my mind and then I just zoom back to the present moment. And I notice how I'm feeling. I notice I'm not sick. I notice I'm not trying to seek drugs. I'm not frantic about getting money. And I'm like, wow, this is so much better. So it's like building
Oh
a
yeah.
life that is better than the illusion of the good the drugs give you, you know, because it's just an illusion, really. Even though when you're in it, it doesn't seem like an illusion. It seems like this is better than my life, but it's really not. So now I'm like, I honestly I prefer how I feel clean. I feel so good that I'm like, man, if I were to go back to that, I don't feel good. Like I just it's
Yeah.
not good. Like so you build a life that's better than being high all the time. And it takes some time, but once you get into the routine and it's just like using, you just get up and you don't use every day. That's, you know, you have other things that you do that are productive. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So well, I think that's like a huge one. Build a life that you want to live, that you're proud of, that's better than the alternative. And then look at the people, places, and things. There's going to be things that we can't ignore. We can't, like, you can't, if you walk past someone that has a cologne on that, you know, you used to, it's close to your sense of getting high, and you know, or like the smell of the earth after it rains, or fall. The season of fall was like such a big trigger for me because it's like kind of that like Halloween and darker kind of vibe. And
Yeah.
actually relapsed in the fall. And I would like, I don't know, I just had this whole thing, like certain kind of music I listened to, very dark music, and the fall and the crisp air and being high and not being cold because I'm so high, I'm hot. And it was just like this whole thing with the season of fall that I had to build new memories around it. Instead of
Yeah.
like, okay, in the fall I get high, I eat mushrooms, I do this. It was like, no, now in the fall I spend time with family. I go and I get a pumpkin frappuccino with my girlfriend, or, you know, like I had to build new things that the fall meant to me, like just the season of fall. Maybe the summer is like a season for, you know, or spring or winter. It's like you build new things that it's like new associations, and the relationship that we have with even as the seasons, you know, or smells. It's like building new relationships in your mind. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It's a paradigm shift. Is what you're really trying to do, is you're changing your paradigm. And I mean, it takes time because you didn't get to the point of walking into a rehab in a day or a week or a month. I mean, it probably took months or years before you even step foot into a rehab. And so to build that habit of drug seeking and using it took some time, you know.
Yeah.
It's the same thing getting out of it. It takes some time to build these new habits, but once you do, it's like the battle is like, I don't want to say over, but it's not really like there as much. It's like because you just do it. It's your program. It's like a software on a computer. Like you open up Microsoft Word, you don't expect to be editing a video in it. You open it for typing words, and that's what that program does. So if you want to edit videos, you have to have a new program. And it's the same with getting clean. Like we had the program of getting high. We have to have make that one obsolete, trash it, delete it, and replace it with a new program that we operate from that gives us better results.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So I think we do align on a lot of things though. Which is interesting and good. But yeah, I do like the sauna thing. That's pretty cool. But yeah, anything else you want to add, Dan, about this, or anything you want to share, or a story you want to tell, or anything?
Not off the top of my head, unless there's anything you want me to say or anything you want me to go over or anything you want me to talk about from the past or
Hmm. I mean, we've had so many.
just a lot.
Let me. Okay, I got something that we
Okay.
can talk about real quick because it's a pretty big deal in recovery.
Okay.
Um, what are your thoughts? Like, let's say opiates of whatever form are your drug of choice. What are your thoughts about taking Suboxone, like the replacement therapy, or methadone or Subutex, would that be a good solution for a person who wants to get off drugs?
Again, you're right. That's a tough question because this is my opinion. It I think it depends on the person. I've seen. Coming off Suboxone is also horrific too
Yeah.
because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like it has such a long. But I know people that because for instance here I'm gonna use my friend Olivia again as an example. She was a heroin addict, very bad heroin addict. Rehab. Went to Narcanon. Was clean for a long time. She got into a relationship with someone who was using heroin. She got back on it. She got back on Suboxone. She left him, stayed on Suboxone, got a job. She got into a new relationship with someone healthy who was clean. She stayed on Suboxone for 10 years, every day. Like she didn't abuse it. She took it exactly how she was supposed to. Had a job, had kids, raised a family, did all of that stuff perfectly fine. And then one day she was like, I think it's time to get off of it. So her mother did a paid for her to do an ultra rapid opiate Suboxone detox, which it takes the 3 week detox. It condenses it into like 48 hours, but you're unconscious. So she did that. And then she was like depressed. You can imagine being on Suboxone for 10 years. And after about a month, she was like, I think I want to, I'm going to drink. She had a few drinks and then it was like Super Bowl Sunday. So she was like, I'm going to buy a little bag of Coke to like bring me up a little bit because I've been so drowsy dragging my feet. She did a bag of Coke, it was laced with fentanyl, done. Um, I know that's such a hard question because now, me personally, I can't. That doesn't work for me because I get on Suboxone and then I get back into the addict mentality. Then I start like, well, I'm going to sell some or I'll take more than I'm supposed to, and it's like I can't do that. Some people, I think. One of our friends that we spoke of earlier, I know, has been on it for since. I mean, I haven't talked to her in probably 6 years. I think you know who I'm talking about. Um,
Maybe.
the person that you went to the thing with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
she's been on it for probably 10 years now and is fine. So it's like some people, I think, if you're so bad off that you just can't get it, I think it's better. I think it's better than like the alternative. It's not. I don't think it's the best answer, but I think it's like at least it's like some sort of maintenance. But
Yeah.
I don't. I personally, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. I wouldn't either. And like, to be clear, I don't judge people at all for doing that. Like taking that route. I don't think it's good. Here's how I look at it. I get some people are like, well, would would you rather me do that, like take Suboxone every day, or die, keep doing what I was doing? At least I'm not out there stealing and all this stuff, and being going to drug dealers and putting yourself in risky situations. I get that, and it is like, it does appear to be the lesser of the two evils. But eventually, if you want true freedom, because it's still, the Suboxone still changes your chemistry, it changes your mood and your mind. you
Same
are
thing.
you
Yeah.
you cannot be your true self ever with on that, as or like methadone. It's just so strong. It's a very strong
Oh,
opiate.
I know. Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, okay, so if I go on this Suboxone maintenance or methadone maintenance, eventually I'm going to want to get off of that. And I'm going to have to go through this all again and hope that I don't relapse on heroin or fentanyl and die in the process. So why not just get it over with now? Go through all the pain, go through the suffering, remember it, remember how bad it is, and that I don't want to ever go through that again, and then just be free, be completely free. I don't, like, now I can take a trip. I don't have to worry if I have my methadone or my
Yeah.
Suboxone, I can live my life. I'm not bound to like this methadone clinic or the doctor. It's like,
Yeah. I remember whenever I was on methadone, I did literally go every morning at 6 a.m. It was like
right.
a nightmare.
And
Like,
it's like it's the same thing as going to see a drug dealer every day, except maybe
yeah.
your insurance covers it, and it gives you something to look forward to, and it's putting something in. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So it's like, if you really want to be free, just go through it. The do it the hard way. I guess there is no real like soft way. I mean, our every action has a equal and opposite reaction. Like our choices have consequences. Just because we have free will doesn't mean we're excluded from the consequences of our choices, so I say just go through it. If you have the uh ability to be in a rehab or something, just go through it and remember that you don't ever want to be there again, and then you'll be free on the other side. I think fear keeps a lot of people stuck, and like, it's tempting, don't get me wrong. It's like, oh, I could just take this little strip of like this Listerine strip every day and not have to worry about, like, that is tempting, and I won't get sick. Like, I can just never get sick. But you know, I don't know. I think, like, what if they like war came on where you live and the pharmacies got blown up and there was no more drugs, and there you are still needing your
Yeah.
fix, but like the world's in turmoil and you have to survive, but you're so sick you can't do, like, I think of those kind of things. Like, you want to be prepared in life for whatever happens. And
Well,
so
I know right now, I know two people that work at this. They don't work. They like, I don't know them from Narconon. They live like next. They work at this vape shop next to where I live, and they're both on pain medicine for actual like reasons. Like, they like, the one guy was like ran over by a car, so it's like he's on pretty high pain medications. And currently, right now, I don't know if you know this, but there's a shortage on oxycodone and all that sort of stuff.
I didn't.
And like, there's like five different medications, and he can't get his medication right now. He can't.
Yeah.
So it's like, she's like free. I remember going in because we go in there and get like vapes and cigarettes and stuff for our clients here. And she's like, yeah, my husband. She's like, all the pharmacies are out because it's like it's on back order. It's back ordered for another month. So it's like just like you said, it's like, then you don't have to be that same thing. What happens if that happens with Suboxone or methadone? It's like, then you're still stuck to something.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's, yeah, all they have to do is just quit making it, and then you're screwed, And then what are you going to do? You're going to go to the next thing because you don't want to be sick, right? I mean, most likely, most people probably would. I mean, I would,
Yeah,
So, yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not going to judge someone. I know in like NA, they judge, a lot of people judge
yes,
the
I
crap if
know.
you're like, I'm on methadone or Suboxone, that you're not clean, and I get it. I mean, it's true, you're not clean,
Yeah,
but maybe you're living a better life on it. And so, but until you get that out of the way, here's a revelation I had a few years ago. So coming back to like the universal laws, the law of vibration decrees that nothing, we literally live in an ocean of motion, nothing ever rests. So if you look at anything, take a microscope and look at anything close enough, you will see tiny little particles, neutrons,
yeah,
protons dancing around, right? And things have a certain resonance or vibrational frequency. So that's everything. Everything is just energy, and everything has a frequency. You can actually, they make these devices now, you can hook them up to plants or mushrooms, and you can hear the frequencies of the plants and the mushrooms. It's super trippy. It's really cool.
huh,
So, and if things that are in equal harmony attract to each other, we know this to be a scientific fact. It's not just some woo woo. Things that are on the same vibrational frequency attract each other. Um, so if I am to put something in me, okay, and that substance, it vibrates on a frequency. When I take it, it fuses with me. I become one with that substance, and it locks me into that frequency. It's a powerful chemical. it locks me into a certain vibrational frequency. Now I cannot be anything other than that. I might be able to think different thoughts, but to really change the frequency, the energy that I'm in, I can't until this thing passes through me. So when I'm taking methadone, I'm gonna literally it becomes a part of me. Literally, I fuse with that vibration of methadone, that energetic field of methadone, and so now I'm not my true self. I'm just not. It has a level of control over my thinking, my thoughts, whether I'm aware of it or not, is beside the point. So if I really want to come to know Ray and understand who Ray is, what does Ray like? What is Ray like? I have to get those things out of the equation to come to know my true self. And freedom lies on the other side of that, So you can do it. I'm not going to judge people for doing it, but that's what I've learned about that. And if you really want to recover, I don't believe at all that that is a good method or a good route. Now,
Yeah.
most people I've seen have failed on that. I have seen a
Yeah.
couple successfully do it.
But it's few and far between.
What's that?
It's few and far between.
Yes, it is. So yeah, I think that's a good point to kind of end on. But
Yeah, but if there's anything else you want to ask me before we end off, I don't know, past, present, future.
well, we could talk all day.
No, I know. I just didn't know if there was any specific questions that you had that you wanted for me or no, or if you want to go over that in a different one, the next one we do.
Yeah, maybe we can think about some things on the next one. I would say, if anybody's seeing this that is struggling, you can reach out to us. You can leave a comment below here in the description. Narconaut.
Even if you want to hear about something.
Yeah, we definitely want to hear about like your comments, your thoughts, a topic you'd like to see covered. And always looking for people who have a year more clean, who have a story they'd like to share on the podcast as well. I'm always looking for people who are willing to do that. A lot of people say they're willing and then they back out the last minute for whatever reason. But
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah. Any final words, Dan?
Well, just like I said last time, don't give up hope.
Yeah, for
There's
sure. If
always
you're
hope.
alive, there's still hope.
There's always hope, no matter how low it seems and impossible.
Yes, because it definitely seemed impossible for me, and I know you
Me
too.
too.
Yeah,
It's like at the bottom of the bottom, it's like there's no way,
yes,
but it's possible.
it is, and we're both living, breathing examples that it is possible. And we've
Yeah.
both been, we should be dead over and over. It was bad as being nice about it. It's beyond bad. It was just like a living nightmare.
I mean, if we wrote a book about our story, I feel like it would be almost unbelievable.
You feel like it would what?
Be unbelievable.
Oh yeah. And even some of the things we've told people about our experience, they don't believe. So yeah, I mean, like who takes 300 milligrams of Klonopin and just for fun and lives, when the lethal dosage is 20,
I mean, yeah, I mean, even just normally, it's like since I've been here, I've never talked to someone who like, people are like, yeah, I take 2 milligrams, or like I was on a really high dose. I was on 6 milligrams. I was like, I mean, you and I, we get our scripts, we take like 20 or 25 right off the rip.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, and then it just keep taking them over the next few days. It's like, I haven't really heard of many people who do that. And it's like, I tell people like that, and they're like, yeah, I think there's no way you can take that many. I'm like, oh, yeah, there is.
Or like 20 Xanny bars. I don't know if you remember, there was a time I came across like a bunch of Xanny bars, and yeah, I probably had like 50 of them or something. But yeah, it's like people don't. I remember a certain woman who used to be with a certain guy who like she took a couple Xanax and ended up like naked and in jail and all that off of what, like 2 milligrams of Xanax, I think.
Yeah.
And she
they were
blacked
like
out for 3
fighting, and
days.
she was like fighting and screaming.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we're thinking of the same person.
Yeah. So, well, thank you guys for tuning in today. I hope everyone got something out of this. Hopefully there's something you can take away. And like Dan said earlier, actually apply it to your life, because we're not on here just to talk for something to do because we're bored. We're both very busy men, and but
Yes.
we care about recovery a lot because we know what it's like. We've been there. And so the whole reason for this is we want you to take something from here and apply it to your life and have a better life ultimately. So please reach out if you need anything. Me and Dan both, like, we're not going to say, well, find someone that can help you. Like, we want to be those people that can help you. So if you need to talk to somebody, reach out to us. We will help you find somewhere to go. We'll tell you what it's like, we'll fill you in, help to like ease your mind on it, because I get it, it's scary and there's a lot of resistance there, but it's certainly way better than the alternative, living in your misery for the rest of your life or until you eventually die a slow suicide. So that's all I got. Dan, thanks for being here today and for your time. Dan's
Yep.
actually at work and got time out of his day to do this, so appreciate it.
Yep. No
All right,
problem.
guys, well, we'll see you on the next one.